Well, g'day, Max there again, welcome back to the shop. So this episode we're going to hook straight back into our lathe. We'll try and get our cross slide all knocked off, the compound slide knocked off, and hopefully we'll get into either the change gear side of it or the tailstock side of it. So I need to really push this along now and get this all done, as I've just got that much work to do up at the block with the new shed, plus other jobs up there to do as well, you know, regarding fire season sort of things, cleaning things up and that. And here we've got to fix our pool fence, got three poles to replace and that. So I'm pretty busy, so we'll crack on, we'll do our best to get it done, and it's not going to get done sitting there talking about it, so let's do it. Well, this will be the first chips for the rotating tool. Alright, it's only a drill bit that this machine's made. Previously the only chips I've made on this were when I was slotting the boring bar for the lathe. We were just hand slotting then, so we'll see how it goes. Hardly a problem. So we're just drilling through the cross holes so we can connect into this other oil port. Then we'll drill through into this oil groove here. That will allow this oil port to feed this groove and the Gib Strip. So this afternoon there's an acquaintance of Bruce with him's coming over, and we're going to run through all of the settings on the VFD just to get it all tuned up as it should be. So anyway, we'll move on, we'll get this cross slide knocked off and get our lathe back together. Okay, so we're just going to use a small tool in the Dremel, just a small ball cutter, and so all we have to do is link our oil port to our oil groove. So I've just got to cut a small slot along there. Okay, so that will allow the oil to flow out the hole and into the groove. So I think we might, yeah, I've got a couple of small zigzags to do internally on this one. That'll link this oil way here to this surface here. So I'll do those off camera because you won't be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so we've got our cross slide all cleaned up now. I did actually cut a bit of a zigzag groove on this inside way along here, just with the Dremel, but it's hard to see. It's only very shallow. It's just a bit of a couple of zigzags just to help spread the oil along that way there. So we're just getting our oilers back in. They just sit in the holes now. You've got to be a bit, you can. I mean, you could use a punch with an indent in it, but I'm just putting a little washer over the top of them, just to protect the area around where the ball seats, and just give them a couple of gentle taps in. So that one. And our last one. Okay, so lastly, before we install this, we have our extra oil feed hole that we drilled through there. So it's got a little number 10 screw. Just screw him in there. So I don't want to screw him in too far. He'll just screw in flush. I'll go and get a bit of pipe sealant and put it on that. That'll stop that moving. So what will happen is our oil will go down this hole from the oil can. It'll hit the cross hole that we've drilled there, and it will split. Then part of the oil will come along to these grooves here, and the other part will come through this hole and lubricate the side of the Gib. So I'll put some pipe sealant on that, and this can be installed back on the lathe. Okay, it's time to get our cross slide mounted back up. So we just make sure all our surfaces are nice and clean. A bit of oil. So our slide, very carefully slips into place there. Then we put our Gib Strip in. He goes to place there, and then our adjusting screws for the Gib. One front, one rear. We'll just give that a gentle nip. So what the idea now is, to adjust the Gib strip, we slacken off the screw at the rear, we tighten up the screw at the front, and that forces the tapered Gib further into the cross slide. That takes up all your play. So what we're aiming for is just a gentle sliding fit with a slight bit of resistance. A bit more yet.
Just feel a bit of drag on that. It's just a matter of juggling these screws backwards and forwards. Till you feel a slight drag on it, which I've got there. That feels good. Okay, so now we can put our feed screw back in for the cross slide. I had it in before, but we had to take it out because the cross slide has to go on from this direction. So before we put that back in, I wasn't going to do anything with the bearing area, the handle area on the end here, but said I've got it back out again. We'll just pop the handle and bearing off and just make sure I know everything's fine, but we'll just have a look to double check. Okay, well this is our cross slide feed shaft assembly, the handle. So on the end of it, it has this nut and then this grub screw on the inside. So to get it apart and to adjust it, well, this nut is the adjuster nut and this grub screw locks this adjuster nut. So that's what takes out the axial play. So to get this apart, you just undo, all you've got to do is slacken off the grub screw and then this nut will unscrew. When it's backed off, you'll see then you've got play in there. That's your adjustment for this play in here. This won't take all of the play out of the cross slide, it'll take half of it here. Your other play in the cross slide gets taken up by the adjuster on the bronze nut, as we explained in the previous video on the lathe. So what we do is we just undo this adjuster all the way off. It's just like a top hat nut, and the grub screw in the middle locks the nut, and it just pulls down and locks onto the end of the shaft there. So that will allow us then to take the handle off. And we've got to be careful we don't damage the plate, our zero plate. So there's a keyway there. And I probably haven't got a pair of pliers to get a keyway out. This might get it. Oh, lovely. Okay, so we pop the keyway out. Then we have our bearing race, the thrust bearing, the other bearing, and the other thrust bearing inside. Doesn't want to come out, it's stuck there with the oil. Okay, I'll give this a clean out and get that out and bring you back, because what I was interested in was when we oil through here on the oiler, I wanted to make sure it did get both of these thrust bearings. There's a thrust bearing at either end, so I'll pull this one out, we'll clean it up, and we'll just trace through to what the oil path for when you lube up the cross slide. Okay, to get this inner race out, I'm just using a pair of external circlip pliers. I'm just gripping the ID of the race. I was able to pluck it out that way. So we'll get these parts cleaned up and bring you back. Okay, that's everything cleaned up. All the bearings look good, everything looks really good inside. So, to get to our mystery oiler, this one on top here, it does actually drill straight through into this cavity in here, and the oil splits in half and comes out each end to lubricate the thrust bearings. So that was the bit I just wanted to confirm what was going on. So to put this little one together, the thrust bearing on the shaft, race, thrust bearing. We'll put a bit of oil on these as we go. Just a bit of oil on the shaft. We slip our housing over the shaft. Then we have the other race, bearing, a bit more oil, race. Okay, now our keyway. Make sure he's seated in there okay. Just a very light tap's all that needs. Okay, now our handle goes back on. Line up the keyway. That. Now our adjusting collar. He just screws in till we take up all of the end play. Finger tight. That's all it's got to be, finger tight. And then our locking grub screw. Let's give that a nip up. So it should be nice and free. And zero end play. So we can install this back in the lathe now. We've already adjusted up the bronze nut as shown in the previous or an earlier video. So we'll swing it around and we'll install this. Okay, so we slip our shaft assembly up into position. We have the two mounting cap screws. So just put them in just loosely for now. Sort of try and centralise this in the hole of, and then we nip them up. Just a gentle nip's all I need. Okay. So we have to install our bronze nut now. Now this is a bit of a weird setup. This is held in place by one cap screw in the centre, which is through there. Then on either side are two grub screws which push down on either side of the mounting area. So we'll get a better shot of that. So you can see the two circles where these grub screws push down. Now I'm not exactly sure the purpose why that is like that. I think because the main mounting screw for the bronze nut it only pulls up on a very small area, and I think these grub screws allow for any, if there's any misalignment between the bore where the thread is and the mounting face, because it doesn't mount flat on the whole face, it's only on a very small area here where it mounts. These screws adjust like the pitch of the nut, that way or that way. So we'll get it in and we'll see what it feels like. And remember, the adjuster for this nut goes to the rear. It slips in the back here, remembering it's a left-hand thread. So we slip it in until we see it line up, which is there. Put our mounting cap screw in and just lightly nip it for now. Make sure our travel feels good all the way. I like that, that feels really good. Just a bit extra nip. Now these two grub screws. We'll just nip and find an allocator that fits it. Okay, yeah. We'll run them all the way in and back it off half a turn. So what I'm feeling for now, so I'm just going to nip it till it just touches. And I'm feeling the change in resistance that I'm getting on that nut. So I'm just, with that one just slightly nipped, feels alright. What about this one? So these just need to be lightly nipped. And you'll feel the cross slide free up slightly when you've got these in the correct tension. Just lightly nip it. Feels good. Nice, that's beautiful. So the last thing for this part, on the end of the cross slide shaft, there's a little cap screw and washer, and all that does is limit the travel for the cross slide going back the other way. My phone's beeping away, someone's sending me messages. We've nipped that one up. That's our cross slide complete. So all we have to do now is charge up the oilers. Our saddle's complete. All we have to do now is fill up the oil, and then we'll move on to the compound. Okay, now we'll move on to the compound slide, or top slide. So we have already previously removed the Gib Strip so we could machine in the oil groove. So to get this one apart, I've never pulled this apart before, so we can't, or can we? No, we can't just wind it off the end of the travel. We can't get that nut out. So it looks to me like we have to remove the handle bearing assembly first. So I'm hoping this is the same setup as the cross slide, with this top hat adjuster nut here and the central locking grub screw. Undo the grub screw, and then we have this adjuster here. So I'll try and flick that undone. Ooh. The pin spanner would be handy, but we don't have one, so we'll use a pin punch in the hole there. We'll put our Allen key through here into the other hole, and that'll get it. Okay, there's our locking plate and our grub screw. Oh, I see, our grub screw's in the centre of that one. So that's okay. So that should allow our handle to slip off. Okay, we have thrust bearing, the key in there. Take the keyway out. Thrust bearing. The other half of the thrust bearing is just, oh, there it comes. Okay, now we have to undo these two cap screws and remove this end plate. That should just pop off. And once again, just be careful of our 0 position marking plate. So we have another set of thrust bearings there. Now, hopefully our shaft should just be able to screw right out. Does, and we can separate our slides. Okay, well, I'll get all these cleaned up. We'll have a bit of a quick bo peep at the condition. I'm not expecting to find any problems, and then we'll get it back together. Well, g'day, we're out at the new shed pad, so let's try the penetrometer out on our compaction and see if we've got our desired compaction rate. So we bang it in the initial 150mm, the first graduation, and then we need about 7 blows. And it can only go in 300mm. So there's our 7 blows. So we've got about 140mm to go, so that's well above our compaction rate. We'll keep going. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 blows. So we've got really good compaction here in this area, so I'll just do random spots, and we're ready for the sub base now.